too.
Sorry, Courtney, you were saying something.
What were you going to say, Courtney?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask what you think about like what's going on in your part of Texas and in your area right now.
I think that there are some shenanigans going on in Texas. I think that they're trying. I mean, that's how cheaters are. If they ain't cheating, they ain't trying, right? So I think that I know that there are, but they've tried their best to put in place some voter integrity. And so, here in Texas, you have to have a valid ID, and that ID has to match the state records. It has to match the state pictures. I showed up to vote, both my husband and I, with our MAGA hats on, and we actually had to remove them 100 feet from the voting, which I think is such a crazy
Well, it's
law.
unconstitutional, by the way. It's not. It's totally is.
Totally is unconstitutional, but we complied because we didn't want to get $1,000 fine. But
you should have taken your top off, Sarah, like that woman.
Well, yes, they would have gotten much more of a show than they had bargained for, but but people had to take their shirts off and turn them inside out. And Eric was kind of at first giving them, well, our hats don't say a candidate's name. They don't have any, blah, blah, blah. But, really, that's such a small, pick your battles. And that's such a small battle that I didn't want to get thrown out of line in this most important election. Christians who are watching this, if you haven't gone to vote, listen, here in Texas, we have a multitude of friends and people that we have connected with who have moved here for some similar reasons, political refugees, as the case may be, from California, Oregon, Washington, New York State, all these really uber liberal areas. And some of them have expressed to me that they're not going to vote. And, frankly, I don't want to ever hear anything about the country from you ever again. If you're not willing to exercise this small piece of what makes our country so different from other countries. We don't have kings and queens that are selected here. We have a very special privilege, and that is to vote. And while there is shenanigans that have been going on for a long time, long before 2016, we have, hanging chads. Even people have said, well, paper ballots. Okay. But there was hanging chads back in the day. And I totally believe that there was election shenanigans that went on back then. And, while I don't agree with Al Gore, he probably did win, Right. And so, this has been going on for a long time. Why would they leave it up to the chance of the, what do they call us, Sarah? They call us worthless breathers.
Oh, yes. Useless eaters.
Useless eaters. Yes.
Yeah.
So why would they leave it up to us, even though we, the people in this country, we don't have kings and queens.
Thank goodness.
Oftentimes scripturally, people say, well, we, in Romans 13, it talks about that we need to, obey, and I listen, there's very much a difference between being in the kingdoms that they spoke of biblically and being in the United States of America, where we don't have kings and queens. We, the people, are the boss here.
That's right. That's
and while our elected officials have forgotten that fact still remains via our Bill of Rights and our Constitution and what this country was founded on.
100%.
After this election, we won't get to use that right anymore if we don't vote for Trump and for people that are willing to stand for the integrity of what this country was founded on.
100%.
So, but anyway, Courtney, you asked about what was going on in Texas. I think that there are shenanigans going on in Texas, but I think that they're much less than in other states that are just freely allowed. I heard somebody today said that in Chicago, their friend was able to just walk right in and vote. They didn't even ask. In fact, she pulled out her license to show them who she was, and they got mad at her and told her to put it away. That's something completely different. Yeah.
Crazy. And just so, you know, your audience knows too, is there are thousands and upon thousands of lawyers and Secure the Vote Act, which is, you know, Lara Trump, and many others on both sides, which it should be. Like Sarah was saying, this is not just about one side; it should be on every side. So there are thousands across the country who are watching everything. And remember, all the cheating is being caught. It's going to be used once we get in legally. Okay, everything has to be done constitutionally. Once we get in legally, then we can have real court cases be tried. You cannot try real court cases in a corrupt system. It's just not going to work. You have to let it collapse. So when people talk about, oh, it's been tried, no, it wasn't. It was in standing. Like it was not tried. Many of the cases were won already. So over the last 4 years, that's what's been happening. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
What's up, guys? Hi.
Hi. So that's what's been happening. There's so much being documented, and this is good. In fact, if they want to cheat, go ahead, because all of that is going to come up as discovery and evidence. Many of it has already been passed, but you needed to get people from the state of 2020 who didn't believe in any kind of election fraud to today, where most people actually do believe in it. So it took 4 years for that change of perspective to happen. And so this is great. Catch it all. We will use it later. We will be using it. So, and now because there's technology, when people say, oh, well, it can be faked. Actually, no. When you go to the brass knuckles of the technology, even with the machines, you can actually get to an analog stage, and you can actually get to a thumbprint definition to show where the actual cheating takes place. The ballots are one thing, you know, like the ones where they have a dot in the Kamala dot. That means the ballot is actually bad. So people need to get a new ballot. There should be nothing in the box that you would choose. So there's a lot of ways of how they're catching this now. It's not a mystery of how they're going to catch this now. There are cameras everywhere, even when you can't see them.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've seen like already people that were early voting. I think the one video that went around right now is from Kentucky, that he tried to select Donald Trump, and it would not select it. Like after the fifth time that he touched it, it just automatically went to Kamala.
That's right.
So we're seeing that. I was scrolling through earlier, and somebody posted like them filling out their ballot. They were filling it out in permanent marker, and I thought that was like a huge thing last cycle. I thought that they could only be like marked in with a ballpoint pen. So what do you guys think about that? Like,
yeah, that was a huge thing last time with a ballpoint pen. You're not supposed to use that because it allows you to be able to make it allows it to be invalidated. So when you use the ballpoint, when you use like a Sharpie or something, right? It doesn't count it.
that's what I thought. And,
It bleeds through the paper.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And I voted on paper today, and I was watching when I used the pen to see if it bled through, and maybe, you know, it lines up with a Republican on one side and a Democrat on the other. It would not surprise me at all for some trick like that. But I used the pen and solidly filled it in, and it did not come through at all. So I was curious, how many of you guys, have voted on paper or encourage people to vote paper?
I have in the past, yeah.
Yeah, in Texas, you can't vote via mail-in ballot or on paper, except for very special extenuating circumstances. And so all voting is in person and Dominion digital. And that's the first time in my life, actually, that I voted in person. In Oregon in 1989, they went mail-in ballot. And I was too young to vote then. So So my voting has always been on paper, but mail-in ballot. But in Texas, it's Dominion.
Oh, by the way, so this is our third year in Texas from Los Angeles. And every single year, particularly this year, my husband and I each received 3 ballots.
For California?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So 6 ballots.
Say
in
that
our
again.
house.
Say that again.
So we left California, Los Angeles 3 years ago. And every single year, including this year, we each received 3 ballots. So that's a total of 6 fake ballots.
You don't even live in California anymore?
Correct. They actually had our new address sent, because we made sure everything, it's very obvious that we live in Texas. We do not live in California anymore. And they still sent it, those cheaters.
They're
So
mailing out-of-state ballots. That's unbelievable.
So what I
Should be a
did
lawsuit.
was, I won't say what I said, but I wrote on it, I said, "You mofo cheating Emmy effers." I said, I hope you all get caught and go to prison, something like that. Like, it was pretty, I just mailed them all
So
back.
most fraud has not been getting caught. I was having a conversation with someone this morning about this. And first of all, I want to say the ladies at our board of elections, when I asked for a paper ballot, it went into some spiel about how secure Ohio's elections are, how Wayne County takes extra good care. I didn't even ask them this. And I could tell that they thought I was asking for paper because I didn't trust the system. So they went into protective mode. But what happens, I found that interesting, noteworthy, but I realized that most fraud never gets caught. There's no accountability. It's never tracked down. A buddy of mine told me he mailed his vote in. I said, are you going to follow up on that vote? Because let's say something happens, the USPS is terrible. Anything happens, like, they never know because they never follow up. So most fraud is never caught. And I think that's something that we need to be talking about, to telling people, if you mailed in your ballot, go check on it, right? Even if we should have very simple ways to get people to follow up and make sure who they voted for counted. Because there's no way to stop what you don't catch. There's no way to change when there's no accountability. That's the politics' biggest issue has been there's no accountability, and that's how we got where we got, because there's no accountability.
Well, that's why when Trump has been talking a lot about this at the rallies, and he's actually been talking about, and you may know this, but for your audience, is France, for example. France had a lot of, you see, they got California ballots as well. See, amazing. So France had a lot of election fraud issues, and they changed everything around, and they do paper ballots. Everything is counted. Everything is declared that night. Boom. And I do believe we're going to be going into a similar system because, again, as I said earlier, I was saying this, Jason, earlier, is that, these paper ballots that Trump has been talking about, they're very, very sophisticated. You cannot actually cheat with them. You can't physically cheat with them. It's almost like a blockchain. Imagine blockchain, which is, you can't penetrate it. It's like that. So I do believe once we're in and have the executive power, that's when it's going to change.
Well, and as we remember in Maricopa County, Arizona, when they were hand recounting the ballots, right? This happened a few years ago. And mind you, we never really saw the actual results from that. There was a whole committee, and then there was video of them taking the paper ballots, and they would pass them over a light. And so one of the reporters asked the election crew, that they said, we see them passing through a light. Are you guys looking for something? And one of the men that were standing there in the line, he said, yeah, we're looking for a watermark. And the other guy goes, shh, stop, told him to be quiet. You can watch it happen. And he goes, well, we're just, we just have, certain procedures that we have to follow. And he tried to cover it up. But that's what they were looking for. This has all been caught. And, I don't yet know how it's all going to shake out and why, even though it's been caught, we've still had to wait as long as we have for the results, and why they're still, trying to silence anybody who says anything about election integrity.
Again, it goes back to earlier. I don't know if you were on the live then, Sarah, but what I was sharing is we cannot function in a corrupt judicial system and try to bring the truth. So the whole thing has to collapse. And Trump's been talking actually a lot about that in the rallies as well. Not just Trump, but as I call them, as many call them, the Avenger team, right? The real Avengers.
Yes.
So the Avengers have been talking about that. We cannot have these serious court cases while we're still in this deeply corrupt system, because it's not going to work. Think about it. Every single one, pretty much, of the DAs, the lawyers, the judges, they're all deep state. So, and until you have a real court judicial system in place, you're not going to be able to have a fair trial. And so that's why this has to go first. That's why they've been gathering evidence for the last several years. It's actually more than just 4 years. They've been gathering it for 9+ years, right? There's a lot going on there. So once we get to that, we have to accrue the evidence. And now we have to get people into the mindset of accepting that there is actually fraud, right? Because again, 4 years ago, they didn't accept it. Now you have a really high point of people who actually go, gosh, they've woken up, they've been red pilled. So yeah, it takes time, it takes time.
Now, I want your guys' opinion on this kind of theory, or what if could happen. John was reading or heard it somewhere, or this is like his theory. If Trump gets in, they're going to do everything that they can to stop Trump from taking office. They've already said in some states they're not going to certify. They're going to threaten the 14th Amendment. Another thing that he thinks might happen, that we're going to end up in like martial law with everything, and then it's gonna go like automatically to Kamala, because they're not gonna be able to transfer powers if we're in wartime. Do you guys think it's gonna get that serious? Is that something that's gonna happen, or do you think that it'll be like a peaceful transfer of power?
Well, Trump wants a peaceful transfer of power. He always gives the deep state the option to choose the lesser path. Because remember, if they don't choose the lesser path, that's why the media, the deep state, they're panicking so much, because they don't choose the right path, even though they don't really know what the right path is. If they don't surrender their power, that's why they keep saying he's a this, he's a Hitler, he's a this, he's a that. They're terrified. They project everything that they're doing onto him, because that's what they're doing, right? So to your point is, at the end of the day, and this is why when you go on my Facebook picture, you see the word devolution on there. And I stand by that, because devolution is a series of actions that helps with the continuance of government. That's why Trump wrote and signed all those executive orders before he left in 2020. To your point, Courtney, is they are going to push for this, to not get him certified. That is when the military comes in. That's why in the comms, and when Trump talks, and he's been talking a lot about this in code, he's telling the military to remember their oath, to remember your oath, because this is where the military steps in, who are the highest guards in our Constitution.
Yes.
They will step in, and they will then conduct the election, the one-day election with the paper ballots. That is what will happen, because they cannot have Kamala, whatever deep state puppet they want to put in there. It will not work. So it may look scary. It may look scary for a minute if they choose to go down that road, but they actually can't, because the Constitution in its full power will be turned on, and that's when the military will step in.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it, and a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and it's beautiful. It really is, and that's why I'm so obsessed with learning about this stuff is because it is a beautiful system when it works, and it will work. And the thing is, the American people just haven't seen it work in the way they will see it work.
I think that people are so, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes.
No, I'm good, honey.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that people are so disheartened over what has happened, what they've seen, what they've witnessed, as a lot of people from the West Coast who lived through times where rioters and people are getting out of jail, and the people standing up for justice maybe are not they're not seeing justice, that they're seeing mayhem happen. It's just Gotham City. It's just crime everywhere, and that's celebrated. We're living in biblical times of right being celebrated as wrong, and wrong being celebrated as right, or right being called wrong, and so it becomes very disheartening. And so I can understand why people would be so disheartened with even going out and placing your vote today, thinking, what's the point? What's the point? Nothing was done. I think up in the comments, we have caught without punishment equals they will do it again. And, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. Why wouldn't they do it again? It worked the last time, they were shocked in 2016, in 2016, I was still working in healthcare in the hospital, and I'd come home from a long day of work, and I was not going to listen to the news. I didn't listen to it on the way home. I didn't want to hear anything about election stuff. I'm driving home. It's dark. I get home, and my husband is watching CNN. And mind you, I'm like, what is this garbage? I don't even want this poison in my house. You're watching CNN. And I just knew that they were going to be, crowning Hillary and, worshiping, in my opinion, the whore that rides the beast into Babylon. I thought, this is it. Revelation. This is where we're going. And Eric said, no, Sarah, have a seat. This is amazing. These guys are losing their minds because they thought they had it in the bag, because they were told they had it in the bag. And so when things were not going the way that they were told it was, it blew their minds. And so,
and you can see how they're behaving. You can see how they're behaving, that they're losing their minds. Right. And I think one thing I would love to share with your audience too, Courtney, is we have to remember, just because we don't see it does not mean it's not happening.
Right.
Okay. I'm not expecting everybody to be a political pundit, even though most of them are full of poo-poo. I'm trying so hard to not.
You're doing so good.
Thank you. You have to understand, not everybody is going to follow geopolitical stuff. But for those of us who do, okay, there's so much great stuff happening, or else you would not see what is happening in the mainstream world react the way it does. The more crazy the deep state behaves, the more we're winning. I know that sounds scary, but it's true. And so you wouldn't have seen the puppeteer moves that you have seen in the campaign happening if it wasn't the Patriots actually orchestrating some of this stuff. Biden, we know he's a puppet. He actually is helping Trump. I mean, all the sabotage that he's doing to the puppet Kamala is hilarious. The fact that they mirrored on Saturday Night Live the exact same skit that they did with Trump. It's brilliant. Yeah. And then they offered Trump a commercial spot during live games, right? Saturday Night Live has 5 million views. His ad had 90 million views. There's an orchestration happening here, which is not by the deep state. Trust me on that one. Yes. It is brilliant what's happening. And then you have the real executive orders, which are being unlocked. They are being played out. That's when you have to know a little bit about the Constitution. You have to understand how legislation works. But take all that aside. Pretend you don't have any of that stuff. You're just a regular Joe, gal, whatever, having a conversation. Go and watch the Trump rallies. Go and watch the everyday person. they have no qualms about who's in charge.
Right.
No qualms about it. And that is a litmus test, which should absolutely get people excited.
Did you guys hear the talk about the reports coming from like the health ranger, especially Mike, that Kamala is going to be announced president? What are your expectations? I was hoping we could in this conversation delve into worst case scenarios, right? Not just, worst case scenarios about what we think could happen, violence wise. What do you think their plans are when if they do that? My gut instinct has been that they're going to announce Kamala as the winner, and then they're going to bring the lockdown to D.C. There'll be a false flag event that's going to supposedly be a Trump supporter that they can lock down. The steal is not over. I believe they're going to continue to try and steal this, regardless of military or whatever else. They're not going to quit. And so does anybody else have an expectation for that, for them announcing Kamala's the winner, no matter what the numbers are? Because there's no way to prove what the numbers are coming from the Board of Elections, to the newsrooms. They can report anything they want. And I've been suspected, and I heard another podcaster say that we saw, it said 53% Kamala, 47% Trump in Pennsylvania, that was not a test. That was an actual number they're going to run, and it just accidentally ran early. But when that happens, right, obviously we're going to go straight to litigation. What are you guys' expectations on lockdowns in D.C., martial law, violence on that part?
Well, I think it could be a two-pronged thing. I think it could go that way. And look, they've already engaged the bad actors. They've already let, over 21 million people into this country. These are not, these are soldiers that have come in as well. These are foreign infiltration that has come in. So of course they're going to activate them too. And that could play out just as well. But what I would keep the perspective open to is the military. They cannot override the military. They cannot. They will try, but they can't, because there are certain procedures in place that are constitutional that can absolutely shut that down. And one of the things that Trump, the alliances talked about, and Sarah, you probably know a lot about this too, is they want to make this clean and swift. They do not want bloodshed on the street. Yes, there will be moments of chaos. Absolutely. There are going to be moments in chaos, not across the whole country. They're going to be in certain countries, most likely a lot of the really deep blue states. But they don't want this to last too long. And sometimes, you may need to show a little bit of the chaos. That's the thing that makes me, it makes me sad, because I do think some innocent people, unfortunately, will get hurt. And this is why, Trump, the alliances have been saying, don't engage, do not take the bait. Because to your point, Jason, you're absolutely right. The Soros people, the deep state players, they have activated their sleepers. There is no doubt. Mm-hmm. For me, today is a beautiful, amazing day, but the danger that we're going to be seeing unfold is actually between here and the inauguration. That's what's going to be crazy, right? And but I do believe the Patriots are in control, because you have to understand how the military works. That is where that's when why do you think they're saying
that's best case scenario, though? You're talking best case scenario, Sarah.
Well, no, I'm talking about the counter response. Okay, because we have our counter responses too. This is the counter response to the deep state shenanigans, because they will. This is when, because they push Trump as being, okay, so in Europe, for example, the police that they have there in Australia, they have the deep state police. We don't have that here. Yeah, we have some ones who are being paid off and stuff like that. But in majority, we do not have the deep state police here. They do have them in Canada. They do have them in Europe. They don't have them here. Not the deep state police, like the federal police and all that. But when it comes to, yes, they're going to try and push that. That's why they say Trump's the dictator. Trump's going to have everyone rounded up by the military, because they know the military is the only way out. And I'm talking about the real constitutionalists, the real military, not the woke military is very tiny. That's just propaganda BS. But the real military, and that's why Trump says, and I said this earlier, he tells the military to remember your oath.
Correct.
Remember your oath, because every soldier's the law that every soldier adheres to is the Constitution. Period.
Yes. Well, and I also have heard that the oath that he is referring to is the oath of those who took the oath for the special the special assignment. So there has been a special assignment that has been going on since February of 2017. And that is the oath of which he is referring to when it comes to the storm, which is upon us. And I actually, we don't know what's going to happen tonight, but I don't think that Kamala is going to be announced the winner. That's what happened in 2020. That would be the same playbook, that they would announce Biden as the president. They would have a fake inauguration. We already saw that play out that way. And we've waited 4 years for the litigation systems to take to do something, and that hasn't happened. It hasn't been fruitful. Here we are, literally 4 years later. And so I don't think that same playbook is going to play out. I actually think that Trump is going to win. And I think that, of course, I believe he's going to win. I think that he won in 2020. I believe that. I fully believe that. My opinion to, the overlords that are watching, that's my opinion with the facts and evidence that I have been presented with. But that being said, fast forward to 2024. And I will say that I think that he is going to be declared the winner. I think that is going to spark off riots, and these liberal cities like Portland, Oregon, downtown Portland, Oregon right now is completely boarded up.
Right.
All of the stores are boarded up. That's not for Trump supporters.
No.
Trump supporters aren't violent.
No.
January 6th, people who think January 6th was a violent insurrection, you only know that because that's what CNN told you. That's what Fox told you. That's what these lying media told you from people who were there on the ground. That is not what happened there at all. And there were tens of thousands of Trump supporters that were on the at the White House. And if it was going to be a violent insurrection, you would have known. And it wasn't. Right. And it wasn't. Yeah. It was grandmas and grandpas with walkers and people from Generation Z all the way up to, boomers and even, the golden generation that were there standing up for you so that you can have a vote today. That's what the people at January 6th, there are people that were standing there saying, remember your oath. That is what was said at January 6th. And I'm proud to know that. I'm proud to know that firsthand. And so that being said, I think that Trump will be declared the winner tonight. But what will happen is that the riots that will ensue and the globalists that are, and I'm not talking about Iran, Russia, Israel, Palestine. I'm not talking about those individual countries. I'm talking above that. I'm talking about the global regime. I think that they're going to start a war, and the soldiers that they've brought into this country will be their Armageddon last stand. And I think that is when we will see the tweet from President Trump, because the tweet has to come from President Trump. And it will say, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. And the only way that can happen is if President Trump is the sitting president. And That's so right. I'm still waiting for that. We are all still waiting for that famous tweet and the storm that is coming. And that storm comes, I believe, after he's elected.
100%. And it's interesting you say that, Sarah, because in the rallies, particularly the rallies yesterday and the day before, because we watched all of them. He goes, you know how he's very conversational, like he's sitting on the couch with you talking.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting there sitting at the bar with him, and he's just rattling on 100%. All his stories. I love it.
and they all have a meaning, right? They all mean something. You got to really listen. He's brilliant at it. And he said in all of the rallies, he talked about, kind of off the cuff, but it was a cob. He said, well, I'm kind of a little concerned about between now and the next 3 months. He said that.
Right.
He said that multiple times.
Right.
And that's why he was telling everybody, stay calm. We've got this. Like he gives you the information. Just don't buy the bait. Don't fall into the bait.
And I'm in no way a prophetess. I'm in no way a prophetess of, I'm just, kind of reading the room, little comms like that the next 3 months. If he was not declared the winner, then the next 3 months, the regime would have their field day.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter just the way it didn't matter in 2020. And that 3 months between November 5th and January 20th. And so, or inauguration day. And so those few things I thought, I sure hope that means that it's too big to rig, and that this is the beginning of what us who have been reading the comms and holding the line, that those of us who have been holding the line, if you are watching this and you are a line holder, stand firm, patriots. If that's you, then I'm praying that this is the time. Really, I'm praying for the mercy of God for this nation, because either way, whoever gets elected tonight, nothing will ever be the same. And this isn't just an election for taxes or the things, when I was younger and voting, I didn't care. It was, some talking head up there who would talk about taxes or something that, who cares? Nothing ever changed, like if it was a D or an R in there, it didn't really matter. They were all batting for the same team. And I hear that same. In fact, there's a friend of mine who did a podcast last night, and her take was that they're two wings of the same bird. Correct. Yes. The establishment politics in the United States and around the world, they're all two wings of the same dirty bird. This election is different. Trump is different. Yes. And he's so different that the establishment hates him so much that they're willing to lie and cheat and steal to keep their names out of your mouth. And I mean that by the Epstein lists and the Diddy party lists and all of the lists that you have yet to even find out about. Mm-hmm. There are things that are worse than the Epstein list. There are things that are so far worse than the Diddy freak off parties that people who haven't been rabbit hole divers have no idea. Mm-hmm. Trump knows. He knows. And he has strategically had that information. And so, what's coming, Elon's post, here come, the hammer's coming down.
That's right.
And, the hammer of justice is what Elon said. And so I hope that is true. And if not, then, I feel like we're Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego right now, that, God is faithful. And even if even if God chooses wrath and Kamala gets in and things go sideways, even then God is still faithful. But I feel like God has much more for the United States still.
Absolutely. And even in Europe, that, you look around the world, you look at the rallies around the world, you look at the rallies for America around the world. I shared this before you came on, Sarah and Jason, I was sharing with Courtney and Darren how I have family, I have friends from all over the world who are really praying for America because they know how it affects them. This is so it's tangible in one sense, what we're experiencing, but it's not tangible, right? It's such a deeply spiritual experience that we're going through, that you sort of have to balance both out, right? You've got your boots on the war, and then you've got your hands in prayer. So it's this duality of existence, which it's a beautiful thing when you really take the time to lean into it. And I think for myself personally, I have been around war before I even came to America. I have friends and family who are still in wars for 30 years. So you do have a certain level of PTSD, but when I have seen some people who go through war, they never recover, right? But then you also see a lot of people who have gone through war who are the most optimistic, who are the real soldiers who just get up and keep moving forward. And so I think as a caution of optimism, there are so many incredible people in this country and the world. Love is the overriding energy. These demons that we're dealing with, they're far and few between. They just happen to have a lot of dangerous toys. But I don't believe they actually have some of those toys anymore. I really don't. With everything that I'm seeing and the patterns that I'm seeing in society, and also on another level, and also some of the people who I talk to who have a certain level of clearance, it's just changing. That doesn't mean they're not going to go down with the ship with a whole bunch of chaos, although they're definitely going to do that. And as I said earlier, there are going to be certain areas in America that are going to feel it more than others. I don't think I'm going to feel it where I am. But then again, I made decisions to move here for a reason, right? So I think we just need to, again, just keep our heads on a swivel, but not get so comfortable. Surrender. Right. I have no fear. I really don't have any fear, but I don't sit back and have my water and go, oh, I don't have to worry anymore. No.
Right.
Because that's how they get you. That's how they get you. They want you to be off guard. Boom, and they come in. This war is not over. If people think tonight it's over, like to your point, Jason, rightly so, to think, oh, tonight's going to be over and I can just get back to my freaking latte and I could just, yeah, who doesn't want that? I'm sick and tired of I feel like, when Trump says, right, I mean, when Trump says, I had a nice life. Yeah, would I rather be on the beach? Actually, no, I'd rather be with you. This is where we are at. And if we don't acknowledge where we're at right now and thinking that tomorrow everything's going to be peachy roses, I think, there's a certain delusion there too that needs to be woken up from, right? That's not how this country's going to heal. Is there tons to look forward to? Absolutely. Amazing what's coming. It's amazing what's coming.
Now, Jason, I think you and I had watched or listened to that same episode of Mike Adams whenever he said it's going to be the big steal and then the big reveal, and that we are going to go into like a S hits the fan kind of scenario. And we are obviously listening to the same people with that. And I don't know if you guys remember just a few weeks back that they pushed through the DOD that little clause that said that the military is now allowed to use lethal force.
I saw that. Yeah.
If they oppose, political policy. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that, but I think that it's going to be interesting, even if Trump does win. If he is announced the winner for tonight, that we have another 2 months that we really need to be on the lookout for, because it's not over. Like you guys just said, it's not just over tonight. If he's announced, the winner, we still have to be prepared, because there's a lot that can happen between now and then.
Yeah.
And we do have to be careful what we say. Our words are important. And I believe Trump and the election today, I think we have overwhelmed the steal. I mean, I think we have floodgated the steal, and there's no doubt that they're not going to be able to. Even if they try to, whatever the media tries to do, is they're not in charge of our elections, thank God. But whatever happens, I think that there's no a way that they can outdo the amount that the American people showed up.
That's right.
Before. So I feel like it is, we've won. I mean, it's over. Like we've got this.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what's
Yeah.
going to happen in the future, and I know Mike Adams. I know sometimes you look at the worst case scenario. Maybe that will happen. I mean, none of us really know what's going to happen, but we have to be careful not to project that, because it might be swift and quickly, just like it's been told to us with number 17.
Yeah, 100%.
you know,
They don't want bloodshed. Like nobody wants this. Nobody, even for the leftists who don't like us. Who wants this for anyone? We just want peace.
And we've been.
I do. I want it for the people who have done horrible things to children.
No, I'm talking about the average person who's still in.
I get it. I get it. Nobody obviously wants that.
But we have been kind of pointed at Denver, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, to pray over those cities, Portland, the Seattles, because they might have plans and there might be military age groups there, but we know who they are, we know where they are, and we are going to foil their plans before 100%. They get going. So I think all this is in play, and we actually, none of us know what really is going to happen, but I know God wins, and I think that, like Sarah was talking, we allowed the cheating 4 years ago. We let them walk through this.
No accountability.
And we're not going to give our country away. That's not happening. We're not rolling over.
Mm-mm.
And
so, Darren, you think you don't see a big lawsuits, them getting away with announcing Kamala and locking down DC and creating a false flag event and doing everything they can to intimidate people, using J6 to shut us up and not fight back. You don't see that happening?
I don't, but I mean, they could. I mean, it's not impossible, but I wouldn't. Yeah. That isn't like, I thought that originally, but not after what I've seen show up today.
Yeah.
Showed up prior to today. Like, I think, what is it? We've never, as the Patriot Party, the Conservative Party, we've out early voted them like 500,000 votes. Like our lead, we don't ever have a lead going into early voting. Now we got this lead. And then I'm thinking, well, okay, was anyone going to show up on election day? And man, did everyone's showing up. Like there's lines everywhere, and they're trying everything they do in the same battleground states. There's shutdowns, glitches, errors. They're doing everything they can to they can't stop it. They can't
stop it. They can't stop it. Darren, to your point about the early voting, they said in 2020, the early voting, which is predominantly Democrats who do the early voting. That's why Trump kept saying, go vote early, right? Because that's not usually a Republican conservative strategy. But now, we're still in their construct. So we've got to play. So in 2020, the early voting was about 100,000. And for this time, with the early voting, we're at 700,000 plus. So that is the big difference. 100,000 to 700.
But you recognize that is because Trump has been touting vote early, and never before have Republicans touted that. So I'm not sure that's indicative of the end result, because it feels to me like way more people that I know have gone and voted early. That's great. That gives us that confidence boost. But I don't know that is indicative to the amount of people showing up that we like. I mean, don't you guys think that could just be a false hope?
Well, in Pennsylvania, there was a gentleman, I forget his name. He is an expert in looking at numbers, patterns, and all this and that.
I saw this guy, yeah.
You saw that guy, and he was really worried. He was actually a bit panicked because what they're seeing is, statistically speaking, from the left side, it went down, and they're not just going. And they noticed that with the conservative Republican side, it like quadrupled.
Right. So, so the hope is like what that Darren said, this so big. I've seen reports from Minnesota that they've had lines that were obvious Trump supporters like they've never seen before.
Yeah.
So there is a massive showing up. I think it comes down to, for the sake of, this is election night at 5:00, and for the sake of like this conversation, what are we going to, what is worse what could we see tonight? Could we, are they going to accept their defeat? Do we think that it's so big that they're just going to stop? And I've considered this, and then just they're obviously going to still focus on taking Trump out. The House race, we haven't talked about the House race. Do you guys think we're going to lose the House? Because that they already said they're going to indict Trump as an insurrectionist and disqualify him.
Yeah, it's just not going to work. All their propaganda is just going to fall apart. There's too much. There's too much. That's why the last 4 years had to happen the way it was. First of all, they had to show the people, right? Because people don't believe it, right? People don't believe until they see it. I'm okay with believing it. I don't need to see it, okay?
You don't think Jamie Raskins would vote to disqualify Trump if they take the House?
You can't. We've got 3 branches of government. They can't do it.
Hey, so let me ask you guys this, because, like 4 years ago, I was watching Fox and they called it in Arizona, and I haven't turned Fox back on since.
I remember that.
I think Fox is like the
Brett
worst.
Baer traitor.
I think Fox is the worse than any other news station. But, you like to be around your people. Where are you guys watching this election night?
I'm watching it on Fox. Not because I love Fox, but because it is a gateway. I always say this, Fox is a gateway drug, okay? It's a gateway drug to get people off because having worked in television and broadcast, I know the other ones are so off the rails.
Okay, you're Fox. What about you, Courtney?
I'm gonna stream Dan Bongino.
Okay, Jason?
Yeah, it's going to be between PBD, Benny Johnson, and Dan Bongino.
Sarah? Grace?
It's going to be Dan Bongino or Tim Pool, actually. We'll probably be watching Tim Pool. That's what we did for the primaries. And so that's probably what we'll do. We love Tim Pool over here. My husband goes to sleep almost every night with Tim Pool in his ear. He's a big IRL fan. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But you know who else I'm going to be listening to is Trump. I'm going to be listening to him as well. So my husband and I, we have multiple channels on at the same time. Yeah. So, there's going to be 3. It's not just going to be 1, because we're always looking at what's happening macro, what's happening micro, what's happening mainstream side, what's happening on the digital board side. But Trump, I'm going to be looking at Elon as well, because, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on there. And I'm also going to be, there's a couple of people that I know that are having some really big watch parties. Patrick Bet-David is one of them. He's going to be doing a huge watch party tonight. So yeah, there's a lot. The great thing is we have a lot of choices. We have a lot of choices, which is a beautiful thing. We're not just beholden to the mainstream BS,
PBD's great. I really like PBD. I think he's one of the better ones out there, but there's a lot of eyes on it. And my hope, guys, is that there is so many eyes on this, so many people watching. I'm just getting done sharing the links for people to report anything suspicious that they see at the unite4freedom.com. I don't know if you guys have any places, but the accountability factor, I think, is so important that we push, and we don't just, even best case scenario, we don't forget that, things can go wrong and they're not going to stop fighting. And we want to continue to create accountability within the election system. And the only way to do that is to make sure you report anything. You don't let them get away with anything. You make sure there's accountability to the best of our ability. And unite4freedom.com has a link where you can click. I just shared it on my Facebook, Jason Miller, where you can go and report. And they have a massive team of legal people. They're ready to rumble if something goes down. And I know Trump and the Republican Party do as well, but to encourage people to not just lean on these best case scenarios. I really have been passionate and very consistent with our group to tell them, do not expect the best case scenario. Do not lean on this idea of what we hope and what, Sarah Rippert has been talking about. I don't disagree, but I think it's last year it became very dangerous, the amount of weight we put on Trump's going to be back, and it caused this drawing back and this non-accountability that never happened. And I want to make sure we don't expect that, but we still hold them. We hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And so, to the audience, I would say, make sure you are ready and documenting and telling your friends and people to be ready for whatever. I mean, if we, whatever goes down, we're not going down either. So without a fight, we obviously know Trump's going to win in a landslide. So anything else, we have to be prepared and prayed up and, stocked up in however way we can.
I agree with you, Jason. And also Trump has been saying at his rallies too, he said, I shouldn't be saying this. We're doing really well. He says, but don't go with that. Always go like you're one or two steps behind. Right. And it's true. This is no time to get relaxed, no time to get comfortable, no time to bring out the champagne or whatever you people drink. I did want to mention too, I did share this. Maybe I'll tag you, Courtney, and you can share it too. It's called Voter Protection Hotline. It gives every state, and it actually gives numbers for people to call. It's votesaveamerica.com. And it's great. It gives all the states, and it gives phone numbers about if you're seeing things, kind of like what Jason was saying, to report, phone it in, save everything. So the more eyes, the better. Because, the lawyers that they have all over the country, there's only so much thousands of them can do, but it's we the people that have to take action. And it's also our moral duty to do that, because I think the reason we're in this mess is because people got complacent over decades, right? So we have to step up. We have to step up ourselves. We can't expect Trump to do everything. We have to step up, right?
So I have a question. In our chat right now, we have people on, because we are live over multiple platforms, and we have hundreds of people watching right now. And so we have people in the chats from multiple places coming in that people that we don't know, and strangers that are logging on, and that's great. Welcome. And one of the things that someone had asked is that, why do we think that being patriotic is for Trump, and if the other side wins, that's not patriotic? For me, I would answer that and say, because only one side is standing for the Constitution of the United States and standing for the United States as a whole, as opposed to the other side who, Kamala Harris is a closet Marxist. Her dad was a Marxist professor. She's said multiple times from multiple platforms, Marxist rhetoric. That would be, it's very clear. It's not something that's veiled in any way, shape, or form.
But what I would say to whoever's saying this is, you've got to look at, first of all, Kamala is a placeholder. She's not a real candidate. She's an installed fabrication. That was basically, there was a coup against Biden, and she is the placeholder. That's it. She actually has no real power. She's just a placeholder. So it's interesting. It's very easy to get all up into Kamala. That means you're not really seeing the forest for the trees, right?
Correct.
And in a way, on the other hand, that means that people generally still want to believe in good, right? Which is a beautiful thing. But what I would say to that question is this: you have to understand, for those of us who are fighting for freedom, Trump too, you're not just fighting just because you're a conservative Republican, fighting for people who really just want to be free. I don't assign myself to a party. I follow policy and leader. So I'm not necessarily one thing, but I have a philosophy of I want to be free, and I will follow leaders who exemplify that. Now, you have to just look at, if you believe Kamala is who you think she is, think about how she got there. She didn't even get there in a democratic way. She didn't even win a primary. She has not had one actual real vote from we the people. That should be a starting point for you to go down and find out who surrounds her. Because when you find out who surrounds her, you find out who these people really are. These are people who will block every single freedom act except their elites. They belong to a certain club. They have literally shut down every free thought that people who just want to express themselves. So all you have to do is follow the money. It's actually not as difficult as people think. When you follow the money of who, and even Bobby Kennedy, Bobby says it beautifully. The Democratic Party of JFK is no longer there. It's been hijacked by the New World Order, these radicals.
They have openly stated, to that comment, they've openly stated that the Constitution is stopping them from accomplishing what they want. So even if Kamala, I mean, I would say in defense of what you're saying, sir, I totally agree. She's a placeholder. But Kamala didn't necessarily do anything wrong. You know, she was just installed. But if you support Kamala, you can support Kamala because this is what happened. She was the vice president. He stepped down. Let's just say it was all organic, which, okay. At the end of the day, there is an agenda that is not based on our foundational values. And that's why it's not patriotic. Patriotism is supporting something that you didn't create. It's supporting something that people died for that you didn't. It's not your agenda. It's the agenda of the forefathers. As a Christian, I believe it's the agenda of God. It's the agenda of our past, of our future. It's the foundational values that conservatives are building on. And even if you are a liberal and hate Trump, you cannot argue that the left is not attempting to build the future on the Constitution and the morality that this country was founded on. That's why it's not patriotic.
Let me ask this random independent guy with 12 followers on YouTube. Did you vote already? It just sounds like they're all CNN talking points.
Yeah, totally.
No offense.
Right. I mean, usually that's a troll. And so I try not to feed trolls, especially when they say, you better comment, all that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But
there are people who do exist like that still, right?
He only has one follower. He doesn't have 12, he has one.
Isn't it funny how all the ones who troll and then you go on and all their accounts are private or they've not posted anything? Of course.
What did you vote? Have you voted yet? Who'd you vote for?
Probably not even a person. Who knows?
Right.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more commenters and people, especially Instagram, and I know Twitter as well, but Instagram is famous for people in comments that are not humans. They are bots. And if you can really quick pick up on them, because their responses will be very dogmatic and very, and I'll be in the comment like, guys, y'all are arguing with a bot. This is not a person.
It's so true.
That are not people. And I don't think the Republicans have accepted that and understood just how complex AI is.
So to pretend this person, there are people like this person, right? There are archetypes like this person. So for anyone else out there who might think this way too, another point to maybe be mindful of is this. Think about if you're a Trump hater, fine, whatever. Think about his team that he's already gathered so far, right? First of all, Trump is not an ideologist. He doesn't operate from ideology. He operates from principles. He operates from, he's a brilliant businessman and he's a chess player, a very high level chess player. So ideology is where you start to get into trouble, which is why the woke ideology of putting everybody in a box, they can't live outside of that box, right? So ideologies are very, very dangerous. But when you look at, it can be very, very dangerous. So when you look at who Trump's Avengers team is, none of them pretty much have been Republican their whole life. That party of the old corporate Republicans, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Halliburton people, that is not who this is. We are actually the diversity team.
Correct.
We are actually diverse in, first of all, in opinions, in philosophy, in faith, in color, in creed, in ideas. So, to say that this is just a very one-sided new MAGA Make America great, make America healthy. It's a very diverse team, which is how we should be in general. So the argument that, why shouldn't it be for the other side? Well, there are very strong reasons to argue why not.
There are very strong reasons as to why not. If you've been paying attention at all, which, maybe if you're still, excited that Beyonce showed up to a Kamala rally, you haven't been paying attention at all.
That's
and
right.
so, at this point in the game, if you don't know the players, if you don't know what's even a little bit behind the scenes, I can't help you anymore. I've done my job over and over and over now for the past 8 years of exposing as much as I can of doing that. And at this point in 2024, I can't make you see.
No.
So, your blindness, it will be a big bummer for you in the days to come.
You're on your own, and maybe you need some of those. What do they say? You don't really. I as an empath, I do. Unfortunately, I do feel things before they happen. Not necessarily a great thing. I've had to put the armor of God around me for that, to protect my own sanity. But, for some people, they don't react until it hits them personally,
I think a lot of people are that way. I think a lot
so.
of people are that way.
I think there's more people awake than we have realized, and I just think
100%.
they've not came out and said it. And hopefully, this election will represent that. But I think that the media and what we're seeing is not accurate. There's a much broader awakening than the loud ones are getting the media, they're getting the TV, they're getting the camera, they're getting the interviews. As a whole, I do think there's been a much greater turn. That's my hope for this election to have to be so big, too big to rig. So,
Yes,
guys, I have to go. I'm supposed to be on the prayer team at a church right across the road here. I'm late for it. And we have a watch party, and I'm going to be back and forth between a watch party and the prayer team at church. So I've got to run.
Bye, Jason.
Hi, Jason. God bless you.
Love you, brother.
Love you, Darren. Hey, one more thing before I go. I want to tell you guys, if and when Trump is inaugurated, to everyone that sees this next 4 years will be the most important 4 years this country has ever faced. Because if we don't deal with some of the things that need to be dealt with and what we hope the last 4 years would do to push us into these positions to where we know we have to get it, we have to start filling these shoes that have been left empty. If we don't, in 4 years, they're going to have a fix so big and so good. That's what I believe. I really believe we must fill that spot in the next 4 years. We got to go back to one-day voting. We got to go back to paper ballots. My buddy just sent me the link again to his website, DeleteVotingMachines.com. Go check out the website, DeleteVotingMachines.com. Guys, we have to step in and fill the shoes of the evil people that have been taking over. So if and when Trump is reelected. So we're just getting started. Sorry, you can't take a break when Trump's back in there. So
No, you can't. You can't.
Yep.
all right.
Bye, Jason.
Bye, Jason.
Guys, love you guys. Appreciate
Love you
having
too, man.
Love you. Bye.
I just want to say, as a Christian, as somebody who is, a Make America Great Again, but patriot, really, standing for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and what this country was founded on, but more importantly, on biblical values. How to make America great again. In 2 Chronicles 7:14, it says that if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. And I oftentimes that scripture is used that all of America needs to turn back to the Lord. And while that's true, all of America needs to turn back to the Lord. Really, this scripture is for believers. It says, if my people, which are called by my name, that is believers. That is Hebrew Israelites, that is Christians, that is followers of Yeshua, followers of the way, that have been grafted into the vine, those who are adopted into the family of God. If you are adopted into the family of God, then we need to humble ourselves. We need to pray and seek the Lord's face. We need to turn from our wicked ways in our life, in our secret life. Repent and turn from those wicked ways. It is believers in this country that can turn this ship around. And then God will hear from heaven and will forgive our sin and heal our land. And that has been my prayer. That has been my prayer nonstop, that the Lord would have mercy on America, that the Lord would have mercy on us, and that the Lord wouldn't be done with he wouldn't be done with America. If Kamala gets in, this regime who wants to murder babies and had, so much so that they had a bus outside their rally murdering babies, celebrating that. Their entire guest list has been, the guest list of Diddy freak-off parties. Like, that is their platform. And today I've seen videos over and over at voting stations, and people in tears because it's for my daughters so that they will have, the freedom. I said, the freedom to do what? To murder their babies. That is what these people, that is their platform. And that is what they're voting on. And Lord God, have mercy on us. I voted for religious freedom in this country. I voted for God to be glorified. And you know what? Trump doesn't glorify God. That isn't his job. He's not my pastor. I don't know where Donald Trump stands in his faith. The people who are around him, the pastors who are around him, say that yes, he has given his life to the Lord. I've not personally had that opportunity to speak to President Trump, but I know that I am, when it says, if my people who are called by my name, that's me. And I know how I can make America great again. And that is to humble myself, pray, seek the face of the Lord, turn from my wicked ways, repent, and beg God for mercy. And that is where I stand today and tonight. And that is what I hope that every Christian, every believer, every messianic Jew, every person who believes that every person who Yahweh is their God, I pray that you would beg the Lord for mercy.
Amen.
I think that's what a lot of people are seeing. It's not left or right. It's not conservative or liberal. It has been a spiritual warfare this past 4 years. People are realizing how much we need to put God back in the center of our country. Our country was founded on these values and on these, conservative foundations, traditionalist foundations. And that's what people want to see, the progressive agenda that has been pushed the last 4 years. That's not it. People listening, go out and vote for your daughters, vote to support their dream of being these, pro athletes and being able to compete in their own sport without being threatened by a man. You know what I mean? Like, people
Totally.
are just going backwards. They're not, they're either getting it or they're not. And that's it. It's one way or the other. I don't think there is any in between that people can stand on. If you're standing on the fence, if you are standing on the side of caution during this time of good and evil, then you're on the side of evil because you're not standing up for what's right.
Correct. There is no more middle ground. Today I was invited to a group, and the group was called Underground Conservatives. And I was like, no. If you are too cowardly to stand up publicly, I don't want to be any part of you.
Yeah.
This is the time to stand up and speak out. And if you are saving face and you're not speaking out and showing who you truly are, then you're no better than those who are perpetuating wickedness. There is no middle ground. There are no fence sitters. If you are too ashamed to stand up privately for your in public, no thanks. I want people who are strong enough to stand up publicly and and speak the truth publicly. So
I wanted to share, as an immigrant who came to this country a long time ago, I studied the American government, the Constitution, wanted to understand how it works in this country. This is a country unlike any other. It really is. It really is such a special place. It is a place where even still today, there are more people that want to come here than any other country in the world. And I'm not talking about bloody illegals.
yeah.
It is such a special place. And as when you talk about religious freedom, this country is very special. Very, very special. There's nowhere quite like it than here. It is a place where I do believe that when you go to a country, and this is why America is so special, that you adhere to any country you go to. You should adhere to the tenets of their land, right? But what makes America extra special is that you do have the religious freedom to be able to practice in peace. Does not mean you go put it on anybody, but you gotta be mindful of that. And unfortunately, they've completely lost the plot in England over this right now. And so what I would love to just leave with people from my perspective is America is, you don't see this level of unity as different people coming together with American values from different paths of life. I don't sit at one table, I sit at many tables. So I'm coming from direct experience. I'm international. I have many different creeds, religions, and stuff in my family. And I can tell you, for those of us who are here in America, we're probably more patriotic, a lot of us, than some people who were maybe born here, because we believe in the ideals and the values of what America has. And she has been used egregiously, and we do not want her to be used that way. And so I have so much excitement and optimism for what's coming. And I'm not speaking from a place of willy-nilly. These are coming from a very deep place of observation, of engaging, of knowing a variety of different people at different levels of this, of the game. Some I used to know who I would not associate with today, and just average people whose names will never be known because they can't be known and are doing amazing things. So to your audience, Courtney, I just want everybody to just get excited about where we're going. Yes, we have to be steadfast, and whatever your faith is, your prayer, keeping your family intact and in sync, is just remembering what is the world that you want to live in look like. And you have to keep doing that, right? We have to decompress. We have to make sure we're eating right. We make sure we're having the right company as well. And I don't mean right as in from a moral, superiority, but making sure we're around people that inspire us as well, especially in our inner circle, which should be very, very sacred. Because we have to deal with going into the world anyway, whether it's through our work or whether it's just through engaging with humans. But I just, want to thank you, Courtney and Darren and Sarah, for being real warriors on this path and not being afraid to hide who you are. I refuse to do that. And I actually think surrendering to the idea of someone else's image of who they think you are actually brings forth the best people in your life, and you grow the most as well. Like, I don't ever want to just sit comfortable. I love to grow and I love to stretch, and I like to understand what I don't understand. And so that, God willing, it makes me a better human being. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to share this space with you and for the other beautiful humans on this live.
I'm just so thankful that we were able to come together tonight. I know everybody is, well, most of us are in different time zones, so we're doing our own different things, own different watch parties, covering, live feed from wherever we are. But I want to thank you guys each, Sarah Grace and Darren and Jason, even though he already hopped off, just like you said, for the opportunity to come on, to chat, to engage with one another, because I really do think that, we were brought on each other's paths for a reason. And I'm just thankful to know each and every one of you guys.
Amen.
Amen. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to know each and every one of you guys, and I'm proud to have been in this in this warrior. I mean, as warriors standing together. I'm proud of Patriot Strong Podcast and Courtney and your voice in this arena and fighting for what's right, and Trump, and Darren for, get on the ark. And, in this time of uncertainty, people need those testimonies and they cling to that. And Sarah creating a space for children and parents to have a safe parentainment television safe place that is away from the cabal. The caca ball.
Yes. The caca ball. Yeah, that's right. And to Jason's point, I know he had to hop off. He said something which I've been thinking about a lot, and I'd love to share this with your viewers too, is, it's kind of after Christmas, there's a little bit of a letdown. You're like, oh, I've got a little bit of the post-Christmas blues. When this war is finally at its transition phase, let's put it that way, we're going to all be decompressing from a certain level of PTSD. I'll speak for myself, but I think a lot of people can understand that. We have all been traumatized at some level. Our children have been. We've had to, degrief them on so many levels. We have to do that to ourselves. But what I would love to share with your audience and with my three friends here is think about what you want to do. Really think about, how do you want to contribute to this great country? How do you want to work? I've been thinking about that a lot. Been having some incredible conversations, actually, with some high-minded, beautiful souls that I know about what we want to do. It's this beautiful canvas. How do I want to contribute? Because this will change. This will change. I'm not saying people won't do their podcasts and this, that, and the other. I'm just saying it will change. It will transform. It will evolve.
Yep.
So, for those who may not have a podcast, what is it that you want to do? How do you want to sow the seeds of, and I'm talking about faith aside, even though it's never aside, but you know what I mean.
Right.
Think about, what is it that you want to seed in the world? Like, it's an open canvas. And I think that's what excites me the most. I'm looking at the gaps, where the gaps are. I'm thinking about how I want to contribute, what I want to start building. And that gets me really excited. And for that creativity, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you do, open that space up, because it's by multiplying that by millions and millions of us that we get to really create and manifest a world that we want to live in. And it's a beautiful thing. So I'm excited about that.
It has been a wonderful conversation with each of you guys again. I think we're going to wrap it up here. We have a little bit of an errands to run before we're back here streaming the live feed from the results coming in. I can't wait to talk to you guys and connect again after results are in. It'll be interesting. You guys, thank you so much, and God bless each and every one of you.
God bless. Take care. Bye, everyone.